Hi everyone, it's Marilyn Alori and welcome to Who Can It Be Now? I wanted to do a quick intro to the interview you're about to listen with Theresa Marie. And because there's a reason for that. In the very beginning, we talk about her work doing YouTube with her husband, Owen. They're the best people out there that I think that can help you to grow a YouTube channel. So the first 20 minutes, we talk about their business and what they do and how they help people. And then I really want you to listen because then we go into their story. And their story is mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing about Owen's journey with cancer and their journey as a married couple. And I just really feel like my audience and their spirituality and everything that you guys believe in, you're going to really want to listen to it. So maybe you're not growing a business and you're not necessarily interested in YouTube, although if you are, these are the people to definitely pay attention to and follow and take their classes. But if you aren't interested in that, you're going to be interested in hearing the story that is behind everything. And it is such a beautiful way in which she told it with it was just so honest and transparent and real. And I really appreciate people like that. When I bring people onto this podcast, or even I bring people into my programs, I vet them. I don't just JV partner. That's when you partner with somebody and sell their product. I really sell products or promote people that I believe in, because I have a lot of students in Next Level Living who are growing a business. And sometimes they hire someone without asking me, not that they have to ask me. And I'm like, oh, don't do it. Don't go to that person. And then I'm usually right. So there's a lot of people out there that are great, and there's a lot of people out there that are not great. And I really want to be able to bring to those of you who are growing a business, and for anybody who's the Next Level Living, they know they can ask me and who to go to. I want to bring you the resources of the people that I know that you can trust, that have integrity, that really care about your business and want to help you to grow your business. And Theresa and Owen are definitely those people for YouTube. But more importantly, well, it's just as important. Their story is amazing. I am friendly with them from being in a mastermind with them, and I follow that. I'm friends with them on social media, and I'm always so impressed with what they share and their posts and learning from them and witnessing how they're living their life. And I think that's important. We grow a business, we grow our brands, and we are part of our brands. And I find that the people that really share truthfully about their lives, along with how they grow their business and work in their business, those are the people that are really great to work with. So you're going to hear a little music, and then you'll go into the interview, and I know that you will enjoy it. Have a fun time and enjoy it. And also remember to rate, review, subscribe, and share, especially on Apple. I'm on Apple, Amazon. I'm on all the platforms. Wherever you listen, it would be really wonderful. I'd like to get this podcast out to more people. Thank you so much, and have a great day or night whenever you're listening to this. Okay. Hi, everyone. It is Marilyn Alori, and welcome to Who Can It Be Now? And today I have a very special guest on, and I'm going to let her tell you about herself, but I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with Theresa and Owen. And Theresa, it's very casual the way I work. I don't even know your last name, how to say your last name. So I want you to tell them your last name and the name of your company, and then I'm going to share about you.
Sure. It is Theresa Hemsath, and no worries on not knowing it, because online I actually go by Theresa Marie. So nobody knows the last name. And I am COO of Acceleratus Media, business partner to Owen Video, AKA Owen Video.
So I know you did a recent brand switch and everything too, even though it's the same, it's you and your husband. So I want to tell you how I met Theresa and Owen in a mastermind that I was in, and they are the go-to people for YouTube. And I really respect and appreciate both of them as people, their integrity and their knowledge and their wisdom. And I wanted to bring her on today because they have such a fascinating story. They're a very fascinating couple to follow. They offer up a lot of incredible tips and techniques, and they also do really great work, which Theresa will dive into more than me about the type of work that they do. But my thing about people that I bring to you on this podcast is more about integrity and how people run their business and how people run their relationships. It's really important to me because I have a lot of students in my program that are running, starting businesses, and they're hiring people that I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't hire that person. And so when I meet people that I know are really the right people to hire, I want to bring them out to all of you on this podcast. So the one thing I'm going to say about Theresa and Owen is that anytime I have a question and I message Theresa, and I don't think everybody can do this, so I'm not sure Theresa can tell you, she's always so gracious and nice about responding to me. And we have been looking for somebody to help us with YouTube. And my assistant, I was like, look at Theresa and I really want to work with them. And she was like, before we do it, let me do some research. And then my assistant came back to me, Jess, and she said, you know what? I did a lot of research. Everybody says they're the go-to people. They are the people you need to learn from. So we're going to be entering into one of their programs soon. We're just waiting till like November or something. And Theresa can tell you what those programs are. So Theresa, tell us about your company and just about yourself. I would love for you to share your bio in your words.
Sure, sure. Yes. Acceleratus Media, as you had mentioned, we had done a rebrand, but we've always have worked with business owners specifically on helping them launch and grow their brand with video. And YouTube has always been a part of what we've done over the last, we started in 2009. But we've ridden the waves of a lot of other trends, that people wanted. When Livestream got big, we became, the experts on Livestream, and we actually coined a lot of the phrases that people still use today, and a lot of the tools that people still use today because of Livestream and, us pioneering in that area. We enjoy Reels and being able to, play with that kind of a thing. And so we do all of that, but our specialty is a YouTube first approach. And what we do and what makes us different from other YouTube coaches out there, and we know them and we consider them all our colleagues and they're all our friends, that we really are great friends with all of the YouTube coaches that are out there, is that most of them, though, cater to the creator. And these guys will range from 20 to 40, and they have all day and all week to work on their video. They might have a huge budget depending on who they are. And that's great, but it's not our customer, right? So we have a heart for the business owner. Most of the time, they're service-based providers, experts in their industry. They've grown a brand, they've done well, but they want to really expand their brand to YouTube because they know that YouTube is going to get them into fresh waters of people who've never heard them before, that are out of their network. They get them, people are finding them on Google because Google does give preference to YouTube, right? And it really can take them to that next level. If you think about any major brand that's out there, especially a personable brand, right? Where that the CEO perhaps has a face that is very connected to, their audience and so forth. The big ones, you'll notice they also have a YouTube channel. They might be active on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, but the big ones, the ones that made a huge impact, have YouTube channels. It's just part of the road to having a large impact. So for people who are ready for that, they come to us. We help them be able to launch and grow their channel without it taking them 20 to 40 hours a week, like some of these other programs might really emphasize. And we give them the system so that they can actually get their teams to help them. We help them outsource whatever they don't need to outsource so that really they can get in front of the camera, share their expertise, know that it's going to be framed in such a way that's really going to attract their audience and not only get views, but get the right views and get, clients and leads and so forth, and help them be able to still have time for their clients, their families, their life, while making this big impact on YouTube. That's my long version.
I love it. It's great. And you touched on so many points that I want to come back to, but why did you guys gravitate towards YouTube? What made you go towards YouTube as opposed to the other social media channels?
Sure. So YouTube kind of happened by accident. My husband is the one who started the company. He's always gravitated towards video. He's loved video. When I first met him, we were dating. This was back in the MySpace days. It was the end of the MySpace days. And Facebook was kind of this new thing that wasn't just catered to college students and so forth. He was already playing around a lot with video and, worked in radio and that kind of a thing. And so when he decided to start a business, he was getting his degree in media at Cal State San Marcos in, California. He decided to start making some money on the side. He wasn't employable. My husband was not employable. And so he decided, I'm going to go door to door to businesses because they've got money. And I'll just ask them if I can record a 1-minute video for them. And I'll post the video on this website called YouTube. I've heard about it. You can put videos on there. It's a great place to host it. It was very tiny at the time. This was back in 2009. And so he did. He started posting their videos on YouTube. Well, some of these businesses actually called him back and said, hey, can you make more video for us? This is really working. hey, can I put these videos on my website? Can I put them in my blog? Like, how can I use this to actually drive traffic to my website? He didn't know the answer. So he just started doing his homework and learning about it because they didn't teach this in a media class in college. Well, what he started doing was he started doing his research and then going onto YouTube. And 2 o'clock in the morning, after his homework was done and the kids, my babies were asleep, we were just infants. He would record these videos and share what he learned about where to put your video on your website and how do you get it, SEO optimized and this type of a thing. Well, people started calling him left and right. They were finding his videos on YouTube, and our business essentially was birthed from that moment. And so it started with consultations, but also he did end up getting a studio where business owners could come in and actually record their videos. He got one in North County, San Diego, where we lived. And then, so it started with a lot of that kind of agency level work with some consulting. And then over time, it really led to us with full-time consulting on YouTube channels. And we've helped so many huge brands, small brands, from across the world, not only be able to launch their channels, but actually grow them and actually make money from them. It's really been an exciting ride.
Yeah, to see it monetized and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating to me because what you're describing is almost like it's 14 years of business, pretty much 14, 15 years in business. And you guys have kind of you kind of rode through all the changes in the business as well. Is that correct?
Yes. It started with helping them record the videos, like literally like I'm more of a videographer. Right. And then from videography and that sort of a thing, it led to, okay, well, they need advice on how to use it. So there was this consulting side. Then in 2017, when Livestream became really big, and Owen had been live streaming since 2009, like before anybody was live streaming. And he knew all these he had these new, these tools and so forth that nobody else had. And so he was helping businesses do that too. But when that happened, we started looking at the course model to see if we could really grow our business that way, because we were limited with time, with just serving through videography and one-to-one consulting and so forth. So at that point, I was teaching. So I was teaching full-time as a high school English teacher. And I'd wanted to come home and, spend more time with the kids and my husband. I was very tired at the end of the day and so forth, and just like, what are you talking about? My heart and my soul went to my students. And so I just kind of gave my family the leftovers. So when Owen approached me about, hey, what do you think about quitting your job and joining me in this business and helping us launch this course? I was really excited. And a lot of people were like, you're crazy. Teachers, people complain about teacher jobs. And even California teachers complain about it. But honestly, I couldn't complain. I was making $85,000. For me, that was great money, $85,000 at that time. We had insurance, all of that was taken care of. And so people were like, you're going to quit that, And I just knew, I really knew deep down, this is going to work. This is going to grow. This is going to be the biggest thing we've ever done. We're going to make more money than $85,000 that I was making. We just needed to do it. So I took that leap of faith with him, despite some of the people some of our friends being worried and family. And I came home and I actually helped him launch this course called the Video Marketing School. So that became our business kind of brand name for a while. And we launched a live stream course that really took off. We launched a video sales machine, how to make money with video sales funnels and so forth. And those did very, very well. But, those trends ride out. And then it's like, okay, what are we going to do next? And when we were looking at, really fleshing back out the YouTube, because we had so much success with that with our private consultants, we reached out at that point to a guy named Adam Urbanski, and that's how I met Marilyn, to help him, because he knew a lot about course launches and so forth. Like, how could we launch this one and really make it big? Well, what we ended up doing was nothing like we thought it would look like. It ended up being what eventually led to Acceleratus Media today. And it's a much more of a hybrid. It's very like private client focused, but this hybrid model of delivering. So we're able to reach so many business owners, give them really high quality, high touch service and consultation, but be able to not be limited by the time frame of one-to-one consulting. And so we're able to really grow. We're able to hire other coaches to help us alongside and other other team members to really help us be able to deliver a high quality service without us being so stressed with so much work to do that it defeats the whole purpose of having a business in the first place.
Yeah. And it's also a very affordable course. At least when I looked at it, I was like, wow, this is because you must have different classes, right?
Yeah, we have a few different ones. So the one that you and I had talked a bit about was our workshop.
Oh,
And
okay.
that has become our kind of our entry, get
Yeah.
your toes wet, get the foundations in place. And a lot of people need that. They just, they need that foundation and they kind of play with it and go, okay, let's see what we can do with this. But some, they're ready. They want the whole thing. They're like, no, let's do this. And so for those people, they still have that workshop. All of our clients do our workshop, no matter what program they're in. But a lot of people then want to spend a year with us. And through that year, we actually work with them weekly on actually the execution and helping them launch and then helping them grow the channel. So there's, what takes it to launch is different than what takes it to grow. And there is an art and a science to it. And so that process of, okay, you made your first 15 videos, they're on your channel. What are you going to do now? What's the next 15 videos? What are those going to look like? What changes are you going to make based on what the analytics said? How did your audience respond to that? How can you say the same thing that you already talked about and actually say it again in a different way that's still interesting and doesn't feel like you're just saying the same thing over and over again? A lot of that, you can't really just given a workshop class. It's going to happen through execution.
Yeah.
And so walking with them through that until they really have their mind wrapped around it, they understand it, they become, in a sense, not only a CEO of their business, but the CEO of their channel. And they're able to fly after that year and just take what we've taught them and just keep on growing. And that's when we see some really tremendous growth, is when they keep going. That's the exciting part.
Yeah. And I want to ask you one more question about business, and then we're going to talk a little bit about personal, because I want people to hear the other side of your story about running a business, being a married couple, and things that you guys have gone through, which has been quite amazing to witness and also devastating. And, there's a lot. I can't speak for your experience, just as a witness to it. But the question I have for you first is, if you were, because I already have a YouTube channel, right, that I don't really pay attention to. It's been there for quite so many years. It's got like over 2,000 subscribers, not a lot of subscribers. I want to grow it. You work with people like that as well, right? People that
Definitely.
have it, maybe not having the traction. Okay, good.
Definitely. And it's all about what we call revamping, right? How do we go to what you did and let's revamp it so that it's ready for a legit relaunch that you're ready to take seriously this time and to actually grow it with strategy in mind.
Yeah, which is so true. Because I'm like a big YouTuber. I love watching YouTube. And I'm like, okay, I need to start monetizing that. So, and I'm sure you're okay, because you guys are pretty public about everything that you guys have gone on with the two of you. So I would love to know, as you're growing this business, you've left teaching to now join your husband. How long after you can tell a little bit of the story, but how long after that did everything like happen with Owen's health? Like, what was that like for you guys? Give the people who don't know you a little bit of that story, if you could.
Sure. I'd actually have to back up a couple of years prior to me leaving teaching, because that's where the story really began. In 2014, while I was still teaching, actually this is really interesting. So my daughter had been born, and this was my fourth child. And I had to do I had all C-sections. So I got my 8 weeks instead of 6 weeks to spend time with her. And I was dropping her off at daycare. And I'm on my way to my teaching job, and I'm crying. I'm crying in my car, just sobbing out to God. Lord, I want to come home, and I don't know how it's ever going to happen. Like, I was the breadwinner really at this time. And I didn't see it in sight, and I wanted to be with my babies, and so I was crying out. And, I think a lot of people have a story similar to that, where you're crying out and then, you wipe your tears away and you keep going, but I actually had a very spiritual experience at that moment. And it does connect with Owen's health. For the very first time in my life, I felt a thought come into my head that just didn't feel like my own. Well, I didn't hear a voice. I won't be so bold as to say I heard a voice, but it was a thought that entered in, and I can feel it, like it almost came in from the right side of my head. And I literally like felt it come into my head. And it said, "You will come home, but you're not coming home now because you and Owen are not ready yet.
Mm.
There are some things that you need to go through and learn before I can get you there.
Wow.
And it was not, I mean, I'm telling you, it was not anything that I was thinking prior to that. It just happened out of my left side of my head. And I started weeping with joy in that moment. And I believed it. And I went day going, well, then, if I'm going to be able to come home at some time in the future, I don't know when that is, I am going to enjoy the last years of my teaching career. I'm going to love it. I'm going to do the best that I've ever done. And I'm not going to cry anymore about it. And that's what I did. Well, 2 months later, my husband was diagnosed with stage 3 thymus cancer. And I know now that was part of what needed to happen. And I know it could be kind of scary, and dire in some ways, but it was through that obviously my health insurance was able to take care of him and go through that. We were not, at that time in our life, we were so naive about so many things. We just did exactly what the doctors told us. We didn't know anything about anything when it came to cancer. And so we did a very traditional approach when it came to, battling cancer. Owen had to adjust the business because of that. So with chemo, he would have really bad weeks where he was just he couldn't talk to anybody, and he was sick on the couch and weak and weeping and so forth. And then the next week he would feel well enough to kind of get some back end stuff to his business, maybe some paperwork, some billing, that kind of a thing. He was a solopreneur at this point. It was just one man show. And then on the third week, the week right before he would do chemo again, he felt like himself again. And so that's when he was like, okay, well, I'll see my clients at this week. So we had to adjust. He actually had to adjust his work schedule so that he could see clients only on every third week of the month, and then nothing one week, and then so forth. And believe it or not, with that approach, he actually really worked better at managing his time and really looking at what he was charging and so forth. And the business actually grew. And so that happened while he was battling cancer. The cancer went into remission, and 1 year later, that's when he asked me if I could come and join the business. So a lot of people were like, are you sure, with his health, and you have health insurance and so forth. And we looked into what's called medical sharing at that time. And so I did my homework because I was like, what should we do with this? And so we decided to join a medical sharing company that would cover pre-existing conditions. Not a lot of them do, but there was one that would under certain circumstances. So we decided to take that leap. We got the medical sharing as a backup. We obviously have, other types of insurance. We've got life insurance and all of those types of things to make sure that we were in place. And then what I did do is I did give what was called a 2-year leave of absence. It might even been a 3-year leave of absence. So I actually had my position in case anything went down and it wasn't going to work out, that I had my job back after, 2 or 3 years that the absence happened. But we didn't need it. The business grew. We launched the video marketing school, and it grew. And then that morphed into what we did with Adam Urbanski, and we really dove into YouTube. We moved to Utah during COVID, and we get to Utah 2 weeks after we get here. Owen starts getting some strange symptoms, and we discover that his cancer is back. And I'm skipping some things. There was some damage from the chemo that had happened prior to that we had to go through, like heart issues that he was having, hospital visits that he had to already go through. So that was kind of we were used to doing this. Like the effects of chemo they really hurt his body, and radiation. But this time when he got diagnosed with it, that it came back, this time it was stage 4. And this time they gave him a terminal diagnosis, and they gave him 3 to 5 years. And, it was like, I'm sorry, there's, nope, you can't have surgery. Nope, there's no radiation. We can give you a little bit of chemo, but all we can do is what's called palliative chemo to kind of maybe slow the speed, of the growth. And that's all that we can do. So we had to grow this new program that we were growing while going through this. And we decided to not share. Owen was Owen was really concerned at that time that if he shared with everybody that it was a terminal diagnosis, that people would just be like, well, maybe I shouldn't be in the program.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't do this because I don't know. I mean, I could give him this much money and then he could die, and before we didn't know. So it was a fear-based decision. I'm not denying that. It was definitely a fear-based decision, but we decided after 2 months of battling, of dealing with dealing with the emotional turmoil of believing this statement that the doctor had given us, and deciding, were we going to believe it or were we not going to believe it? I think now, if Owen had decided to believe it, I would be telling you a very different story right now.
Yeah.
But after 2 months of crying and darkness and despair and being in literal survival mode, I don't even know how we saw clients at that time, but we did it. We just went through it. Owen decided at that point, I'm going to pick up books and I'm going to learn. I'm going to find books out there. I'm going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to do research on what the survivors did. Because the doctor said 99% chance. Yeah, sure. There's a 1% chance that you could, make it through this. And he's like, I want to find out what the 1% people did. And that's what we started doing. So we started doing our research. We started looking into what survivors have done. And we started doing those things. And it was an amazing experience, because at that point, one of Owen's colleagues who's in the YouTube industry, he shared what was happening, and he said, listen, I think that this point you need to share with your audience. I think you need to share with the world that this is going to happen. He's like, I would like to put on a fundraiser for you. I would like for people that know you and love you and that have come to know you to be able to donate to this fundraiser, because doing the things that we wanted to do, that we were going to start doing, the medical sharing didn't pay for it. There's no medical sharing, doesn't pay for anything. It's the same as insurance. It's this, it's all the standard stuff. And so we took that leap and said, okay, we're not going to be afraid anymore. And Owen came out and shared with our audience what had happened and that we were going to fight this. And the man's name is Daryl Eves. He's an incredibly amazing man. He's co-producer of The Chosen. If anybody watches The Chosen series, he's one of the executive producers. He's one of the executive producers of Mr. Beast and his channel. And he runs one of the biggest video marketing conferences in the world called Vid Summit. Owen's personal mentor, amazing. He put on a fundraiser on YouTube with all the big YouTubers hopped on, and they did it for 48 hours. And they were able to raise $100,000 for us to be able to pay for all of the treatments that Owen would go through. And so that's what we did. I mean, it was infusions and, medicinal mushrooms and lots of organic vegetables. And we still, to this day, Owen is guzzling 5 pounds of organic carrot juice a day. I'm not joking. 5 pounds of carrots
Really?
as part of his treatment. And so we were so blessed by that experience, and we've been able to keep going. I mean, gosh, it's been 3 years now since the diagnosis. And I mean, he's healthier than ever. I think it was in April or May that he got a Grail blood test, which is our first blood test that came back that showed no evidence of circulating tumors through his body. So it's been incredible. We don't feel comfortable enough to be like, okay, great, let's just go back to the way things were and have him eat the way he was and be stressed the way he was. No way. Like we're continuing to, his lifestyle is completely changed, and we will continue to do that in order to keep this beast away. But it has stayed away. We've been very blessed through that process.
I have so many questions for you. First of all, an incredible story. I don't think I've ever heard the whole story because I didn't know about all the fundraising. I remember the first post that I saw, and Owen said, please, no negative comments or something like that.
Yep.
And I was like, good for him. And that's why he shared, Theresa and Owen both, you should follow them on social media because they write beautiful posts that really make you think and engage. They're very engaging posts. And I remember commenting on that, and I was so happy to hear that, because you don't need that. You don't need the negative Nellies, but My question, Theresa, I have a few questions for you. Even the first time, how did you have faith that everything was going to be okay? Like, what was going on with your faith at that point? Because you're very spiritual. And I'm just
Yes.
curious.
Do you mean what was going on with my faith the first time he got cancer?
First time he got diagnosed, and you also, like 2 years later, left
Yeah.
to teaching. How did you have faith through that? I mean, you're a young mom, young
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Mm-hmm.
young kids.
So the first one, I think the faith was pretty easy because the doctors were so adamant that this was totally beatable.
Okay, good.
He was like, it's stage 3. The doctor was like, this is stage 3. You're young, you're strong. We're going to pump you with the strongest chemo out there and radiation. And yeah, you're going to be bald, but you're going to get through this. And so it's not like it made the process, not difficult. I mean, it was still a difficult process to have to, nurse my husband while I was working and coming home, and he's bald and throwing up and weak and depressed. And maybe it was a really hard time, but I knew we would get through it because I trusted the doctors, and the doctors said he's going to get through it. Right. Leaving my job and then that entering into that decision, the reason why I had faith is because I felt that thought go into my head, and I knew it wasn't mine. And I believe in God, and I have a relationship with him, and I won't call God a liar. If he said that to me, and he said, I'm going to bring you home, and you're just not ready. You have some things to learn. And then Owen gets cancer. And then now after the cancer is gone and this opportunity comes up, and I see so clearly, this is the time to come home. And I think what made me even recognize more that it was the right time was because it went completely against what I would have, if I had told my story, it would have looked different. If I had told the story, it would have been Owen's business had become so successful that he didn't need you to work anymore. And so you were able to quit your job and come home and live happily ever after with your kids.
Mm.
But that wasn't the story. It was the business was shifting. And in order for him to grow it, we would need to make this change. And he needed me to be a part of it because I had expertise in curriculum writing. And he couldn't do it all on his own. He needed really another person to kind of just help him with the load. And because I knew then that it would take sacrifice, like we had to at that point, with the money that he was able to live off of from the business at that point, like I had to be on a pretty tight budget for a good 6 months. And I planned it out. I'm like, okay, this is what we have. This is what we kind of did the Dave Ramsey thing for that 6 months. But within 6 months, the money that the $85,000 a year that I was making, we already made back in the business within 6 months. So once I saw that, it was like, okay,
We're good.
this is going to work. This is going to work. And then it just grew from there. With the third round of cancer, I'm going to have to humbly confess to you that I didn't have necessarily faith in that moment. When we got the news, I was a wreck, and I was definitely having to grapple with facing the reality that my husband may not stay with us. And it was a very, very dark time for me. When I started how do I explain this? I loved it that my husband said, I'm going to find the 1%. Okay. That certainly motivated me. There was still a part of me deep down that wondered, is this going to work? But I still did it with him. I still supported him in it because I wanted it to work. Yeah. And I was, praying the whole time and, praying that God, would you help us make this work? We'd already done the whole God, like, please heal him, zap him with your healing powers, and let's see him healed over. And none of that happened. So like, I knew that, okay, for whatever reason, whatever journey we're on, that's not the plan. The plan is not to just heal him. For some reason, we have to go through this really, really excruciating time. I don't know why. I don't know why we have to do this, but during this time, what I discovered as we were going through this healing process, and I say we going through the healing process purposefully, yes, it was my husband with cancer, but when you're married to somebody with cancer, it affects the whole family.
Yeah.
And what I discovered was that the cancer that he was diagnosed with and what the changes we had to make and what we had to go through together, it kind of revealed some of the cancers in our life.
Mm.
So not just physical cancer, but what was going on in our relationship and the way that we communicate that was issues. What are some childhood traumas that we hadn't addressed that my husband was still dealing with? And in that process, as we were going through, like, what did the survivors do? We actually learned that childhood trauma, if you have a significant amount, it is greatly correlated with autoimmune conditions and cancer. There's a test out there. There was a study done called the ACEs test or the ACEs survey. I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but you can Google it. And in this survey, they had surveyed a number of different people and looked at 10 different types of childhood traumas that they could have gone through. There's so many more that are not on that list, but just from that 10, and then they followed them for years afterward. And we're looking at what kind of health conditions that they had. And what they discovered is for those people who scored a 6 or higher on the ACEs score, and you can get a 6, up to 10, those people had a significantly higher chance of developing autoimmune conditions and cancer. My husband scored an 8.
Oh.
So we got to deal with that. And so part of this journey was him actually going to counseling, EMDR, those types of things. He ended up getting a cancer coach. There was a cancer coach out there, and it was all the mindset, all the spiritual stuff. I mean, they had some sessions, let me tell you, like some really crazy deep sessions. And I really believe that was part of what's helped him heal. And it's helped me have to face some of my own issues that I've had. And even through it, like, honestly, even through the battle, we decided this year to homeschool our kids. And the reason why is because after Owen's diagnosis, or after Owen's Grail test came back that said no evidence of circulating tumors, like, we really felt like we pulled our head out of the sand and looked around and go, great. Okay. So we don't have to put 100% of our focus here on, I mean, it felt like 100%. Obviously, we still had a business and our kids were still alive. So, I mean, we were doing a decent job, I guess, but we were kind of like, where are our kids? What's happening with them? Like, we had to take a closer look. And what we discovered was that our children had some issues. Our boys were getting into trouble at school. There was some gaps in their learning, that especially one of my children's learning, that we were starting to notice. And at that point, we were really looking at where the business had gone, and we'd hired some people to help. And we started thinking, our kids need time to heal now. Like, we've spent all of our time on Owen, but it's time for us to fight for our kids the way that we fought for cancer. And so we realized that at this point, they needed more time with us, and sending them away to school for 8 hours a day, and then coming back and having them wrapped up in 2 to 3 hours of homework. And then the other stuff that happens with being a kid when you're in basketball practice and all those types of things. I mean, a parent with a child in school who's does their homework and is involved in sports and so forth really only spends an hour, maybe a day with them a day. And what are you typically doing? It's like, oh, we eat dinner, do your chores, go to bed. I needed more than that. We needed more than that. So we decided to, at this point, take one more step. And another big step of faith is this year, I have pulled away significantly, or the school year, a month and a half ago, I have pulled significantly away from all that I was doing in the business to now homeschool our kids and work on our relationship with them, work on their relationship with each other, work on their relationship with themselves. Certainly there's academics involved, but honestly, my number one goal with it this year is mostly emotional. It's mostly the relational things that I think need to be healed, because I think if those are not in place, no learning is going to happen. And I would rather have my children fly the coop, fly from home when they're 18, 19, 20, whatever age that is, and be self-actualized, emotionally stable, emotionally healthy, know who they are, know how to have healthy relationships, people over whether or not they know what a metaphor is.
Mm-hmm.
In the big scheme of things, the relational is going to take them further than anything that they're going to learn in public school. Now, doesn't hurt that I was a high school English teacher, so I do know a few things, but I really am making the relational our biggest focus this year, and then we'll add more in.
Well, I also think I don't know enough about homeschooling, but I do know about trauma, a lot about trauma. And I think that you learn when your emotions are in balance. So your kids are going to have a better opportunity to learn, period, end of story, when they're not having all the noise inside their being.
Yes.
So it sounds.
Yes. And I think even though they may not be able to say, hey, mom and dad, I was traumatized by my dad's cancer 2 times, right? And SVC syndrome that he developed along the way, and moving to Utah from California. No, although they couldn't probably verbally be able to say that and be aware of that metacognition, I think, is just not common at this age. I know that later on, they're going to probably see a counselor about it.
Yeah.
I know it. And so I want to minimize that and work on the healing now before they ever come to a place of recognizing that they need healing. I'm not going to brush this all under the rug and say, oh, kids are resilient. They'll be just fine. Yeah, we did the cancer thing, but they're fine. No, they're not. My kids are not fine. And I am going to help them. And so that's where we're at. And so we have some ups and downs with homeschooling because we're dealing with a lot of big emotions right now, but it's been a month and a half, and I'd definitely say that we're getting better every day.
How did you have the conversation with your kids that this is what you were going to do? Did you have to like say, this is what we're doing, that's it? Did they fight you? Like, how did you get them involved in this decision to homeschool?
We planted some seeds for sure along the way. Oh, did you see so-and-so? They're homeschooled. Oh, did you see this? Hey, I heard this really cool thing about homeschool that you could do. And so we definitely did a lot of that. And there was a lot of mixed emotions about it. My daughter at first was really excited about it. And then my middle son definitely didn't want to. And then my oldest son was kind of impartial. It was just like, yeah, that either or would be fine. But then at the end of the school year, when we were still kind of going, okay, are we going to homeschool all 3 of them? Or are we going to just homeschool the middle one? The middle one is the one who needed it the most. Then the older one, I actually have 4, and I'm not even talking about my 16-year-old right now. My 16-year-old is fine. He does a hybrid school. He's doing just fine with that. But the older one out of the ones that I'm homeschooling, he got expelled.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And it came out of just what happened? Like, we thought we thought in many ways, like academically, he was thriving. And he'd even made friends and all of that, but there was some things happening along in the background that we weren't aware of that really demonstrated that he was so eager to be cool, and so eager for the cool kids at school to see him in a certain way. And so when that happened, it was like, okay, well, I think he's definitely going to need to be homeschooled. We can send him off to middle school because he's about to start middle school. This year would be his first year of middle school. But I think middle school, I don't know about you.
I've heard it's the worst.
It's the armpit of life.
Yeah.
It is
I've heard.
bad.
I didn't do middle school because I did 1st to 8th, and then high school.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Horrible.
Well, and the school that they were going to was a K-8, but now that he was expelled, it was like, okay, I can send him off to a typical public school middle school. Mm-hmm. But I went through middle school. I still see the middle school kids. You're the most superficial, most shallow time of your life. It is all about appearance. It is all about image. That's all they care about. It'd be the worst time for me to throw my son, who is already struggling in this area, to the wolves, literally. Not going to do it. So we decided at that point, no, he would. My middle son needed it for sure. And then my younger one, she would have thrived, I think, either way. She's the most resilient out of all of them. But we decided, you know what, let's just pull the Band-Aid off, and we'll do all of them at the same time. And that way they can actually really work on their relationship with each other. Because we did see there was some like fighting with one another that we didn't feel. We're like, you guys should be best friends. You guys are going to know each other the rest of your life. Your other friends are going to come and go, but you want to be a tight knit. So we really wanted to work on the 3 of them together. And, there was definitely some resistance. But I think they're getting to a place of acceptance now, and maybe even enjoying it a little bit.
Well, it must be a big adjustment for them, because here you are only like 6-7 weeks as we're recording this into the school year, if that much. Mm-hmm. So that, that must be an adjustment period. They're not going back to school. They're seeing people go back to school. And I'm assuming you have to keep up some type of socialization still.
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah. They're in sports still. There's youth group at church. There's neighborhood kids that they can play with after school. So they get plenty. And what's interesting about that side of it, a lot of people bring that up, right? Like socialization. Think about this. In public school, they put kids in groups by an age. Okay, you're 16, you're going to sit in classes with all the other 16-year-olds, right? You're 12, you're going to be in a class with all the 12-year-olds. And in the end, in the public school system, they learn to really only socialize with kids of their own age.
Yeah.
And I started noticing this where it was like, I'm asking my son, hey, can you go talk, to this 5-year-old kid and go help them with this? And it's like, I'm not going to talk to a 5-year-old. They're babies. And it's like, you should be able to have a conversation with a 5-year-old. You should be able to have a conversation with a 14-year-old. You should be able to have a conversation with an adult and be able to know how to shift and know how to talk to each one of them. And with a lot of kids in public school, they don't ever learn those skills because of how things are grouped. So one of the beautiful things about homeschool is if you engage in the community, your kids are actually going to be more socialized than any public school kid is going to be socialized because they have experience hanging out with 3-year-olds and hanging out with 16-year-olds and hanging out with adults. So I'm really excited as I've watched my kids. And again, it's only been 6 weeks, but I'm already seeing just little bits of changes that they didn't have before. Conversations they're willing to have that they didn't want to have before.
Yeah, I think it sounds great. I also, as I'm listening to you, it would have been something that was good for me because I got my confidence from those peer groups, which wasn't good. I was so insecure. So I leaned into those peer groups in order to feel secure.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're actually, I can't speak for you, but it sounds to me like you're building their confidence from the inside out because they have to really learn how to depend on themselves and relate to other people. That's great.
Yes. And who are you? Not because some kid said that that's how you're supposed to be, or this is what the newest trend is. And I love knowing. My son went to a birthday party the other day and he said, oh, I went to the birthday party and I found out he loved Prime. He was drinking Prime, these hydration drinks that became really popular last year. He loved them and he's still drinking them and he loves them. He thinks they're great. He goes to this birthday party and he comes back. He goes, I found out at the birthday party that nobody drinks Prime anymore. And that it's actually like, that, it's not really good anymore. And as a matter of fact, I was just drinking this, Mom, and I really don't even like the taste anymore. And I'm like, man, did you see that?
Yeah.
He liked it. He went to a birthday party. The kids said it's not cool anymore. And now all of a sudden it doesn't taste good. Yeah. That's how much influence their peer group has on them. It's like, if you like Prime, enjoy Prime. Who cares if the other kids don't like it? That's how powerful it is. It's crazy.
That's amazing. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, what a story. I know we're wrapping up here. And I always admire the relationship that you and Owen have. It's always beautiful to see like the love that you guys have for each other. And I'll probably have to have you back on to tell your love story because I know there's a big love story there about how you met. And
oh my gosh, it is a crazy story. It is so crazy. I would love to tell that. We actually end up having during the 2017 live stream, popular time, we actually had a live stream show called Thriving Sexy Marriage. And we would broadcast every week and we would talk about marriage and we would talk about, things that we've gone through and, offer tips and advice to other people. And it was a really fun time, that season of time doing that show. So I would love to talk about it on a future episode.
Yeah, that would be great. I remember once he was at a conference and you were meeting him at the conference and he's like, babe, I can't wait to get you in the hotel room or something in the comments. And I'm like, these two have such a beautiful relationship. It's so great. And the way he talks about you and the way you talk about him it's really lovely to witness. Personally, I love seeing it. So.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that people do see it. I want it to inspire people. We make our marriage a number one important aspect of our lives. It takes work. We've certainly had our highs and lows, but even in our lows, we always tell each other that you're worth fighting for. Our marriage is worth fighting for, and that might mean that we fight with each other in order to fight for our marriage, but it's worth fighting for.
I love that. Thank you. So tell us, we're going to put this in the show notes, obviously, and but tell us how everybody can get in touch with you and what you're most excited about that people can look into with you. I mean, because you've got so much going on. So just tell us a little bit about that right now. It'd be really
Sure. Yeah, we're complex, in many ways. We're more than just our business, right? So we obviously have our YouTube channel, and we have our website, and you can go to acceleratusmedia.com/blueprint if you want to get our free blueprint guide that shows you really the overall strategy plan for how to grow, launch and grow a channel. It's big picture, but I think it'll give you a lot of insight. And there's opportunities from there to be able to engage with us more if you want. So you can definitely do that. And as far as, social, like what we talk about a lot of things. So we talk about business for sure, but because of our own health journeys that we've been on, and I haven't even shared some of mine, like I got issues and perimenopause now, like I've got all the stuff that I've been going through, but I've always loved health and wellness, and my passion for that actually has helped with, walk Owen through a lot of what he's been doing. So we talk a lot about health and wellness. And we do that more on Instagram. So Owen does have a channel called Cancer Fighter Owen, and I have an Instagram page called Hey Theresa Marie. And on mine you'll see a lot of my family, but I also talk a lot about health. There's no money. I'm not charging for anything. It's just me sharing my passions and what I've learned. And I've taken some courses and so forth to help me grow more in those areas as well. So anytime I learn or feel passionate about something, I'll share that with everyone. And then Owen talks about cancer on his Cancer One. And then on Facebook, you can find me, Theresa Marie on Facebook as well. Owen Hemsath is how you can find Owen on Facebook as well. That's really, we talk about business, we talk about teams, we talk about our personal lives too. You get a good complexity, when it comes to us on both of those channels. And then with YouTube, if you look up Owen Video, just look up Owen Video, you'll find his channel. And there's so much good content. There's so many things that you can, watch to learn from live streaming to sales funnels to obviously YouTube and so forth.
That's great. Thank you so much, Theresa. I really appreciate it. And we'll put all the information in the show notes below. And I just can't thank you enough. And it was so great hearing that whole story. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. I appreciate sharing it.
It was fun.